There's been several cases where they've gone to arresting people working inside the banks because they've been placed there by organized criminal groups.
Money makes a world go round. It makes a world go round. Money makes a world go round. It makes...
So welcome to The Laundry, the podcast connecting AML, compliance, and financial crime to the real world. And we are here live on stage in Copenhagen. All right, the best way to set the scene for this conversation is thinking about the original Terminator films. And bear with me here, ladies. In the original 1984 film, the T-800 is a threat. It's a machine sent from the future to destroy us. But the second film, in 1991, the exact same model had been reprogrammed and is now humanity's last defense. And this is kind of how we should be looking at the relationship between technology and financial crime. A threat that we can reprogram to work with us rather than against us. I'm Marit, CEO of Strise, and in this episode, we are asking, how do we turn technology against financial crime? We'll be discussing how technology is our biggest threat in compliance and how technology can also save compliance. And what does the industry need to embrace to do the change? And to dive into this topic, I'm delighted to be joined by Louise Buchter, AML Expert, and Cecilie Bøttger, Head of Compliance at Kompasbank. So Louise, you are one of Denmark's most experienced AML practitioners. She's seen systems from every angle, writing the rules at Finanstilsynet, advising on them as a lawyer at Kammeradvokaten, and most recently running AML for one of Denmark's major banks. And Cecilie heads up compliance at Kompasbank, Denmark's first fully cloud-native licensed bank. She had to answer questions that most compliance professionals are only just starting to ask. What does a modern compliance function actually look like when you don't have any legacy to protect? So welcome to The Laundry, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's start by looking at technology as the financial crime super weapon. And to set the scene, do you guys see technology as the Terminator riding in on a motorcycle to shoot us down, or as the hero that will come and save us?
Both.
Yeah, both. I think it's a hero because we can gain from all the extra force it gives us. But the criminals, I mean, they're clever people. If they were just ordinary middle class workers like the rest of us, they would have a 9-to-5 kind of job and they would be doing the rest of us. They are not. They're very, open-minded to a new technology, and they are way ahead of us.
And you also think both?
I would say that we both have Terminator, so it's just a matter of whether it's for us or for the criminals. So it's a race all the time to see who gets the techs first, right?
And for hearing from the practitioner, what are some of the latest technological developments that actually keep you up at night? Have you seen anything specific from the front lines that is a threat that you've seen in Kompasbank, or what is it that gets you scared?
Well, the speed of AI, how it's accelerating and in the hands of criminals, accelerating as well, and the keeping up. But besides that, it's actually also the whole social engineering insider threat as well. We just had this mask documentary in Denmark where fraud is coming within, and it's both the knowingly insiders but also the unknowingly, because a criminal doesn't have to hack a bank today. They can just ask someone to hand over the key or change the account number or something like that, but you get my drift. That social engineering is a technical problem in disguise, you could say. That's a big threat that I see as well.
In Norway as well, there's been several cases where they've gone to arresting people working inside the banks because they've been placed there by organized criminal groups. So that is also very hard to stop with technology. Humans are very hard to stop.
And it's hard on our society is very trusting, and it hurts to acknowledge that this is actually a real threat. And of course there are some that are also criminals, but there's also people that are threatened or bribed into becoming an insider or unknowingly doing stuff that they thought were for helping a customer, but was actually a criminal.
What's some of the technological advances that keeps you up at night?
It's the fact that all the customers, they used to be, I mean, they have the money in the bank, and of course it would be a bank robbery, but that would be sort of the biggest threat. Now they will sit in their living room drinking coffee at night and watching television, and they will then, the robbery would be, I mean, on the phone in their own house. I think that's a big threat because it tears down all the confidence we have in our financial systems in the end, because why should I have my money in the bank if they're still stolen because I unwillingly gave my information away? I think that's a big threat, and especially as you say in a society like ours where trust each other so much. Yeah, that's a huge threat.
Yeah, and everything comes down back to this trust element, right? And that hurts us a lot here in the Nordics, where we do value trust and transparency so high. But now we can see that it's almost turned against us. And what will that do to our society? Like this foundational piece of how our societies work. It's just like, feels like it's crumbling on several levels. But are there any specific typologies around like technology and financial crime that are very specific to Denmark that you guys have seen? Or do you think maybe, or some of them are they Danish, or are they more on the global scene?
We're such a digitized society, which is great. In every other sense, it's great. But right here, maybe not so much, actually, which is a problem because we cannot turn back digitalization. That would be insane. But we need to be in the industry. We need to be even more clever and come up with even more guidelines and safeguards in order to check our need to be a digital society.
And I think that criminals are opportunists. So it's just because that we're maybe an easier target, but I think that they're just sending their stuff all over, and it just hits harder here because the doors are open so many places that you can just walk in digitalized into people's banks, or hopefully not banks, but homes and phones and stuff like that, and through that attack surface get into their financials.
So one of the topics that are debated a lot is, of course, deepfakes, using AI to create deepfake profiles. But is that something that you experience on the front line that is happening, or is it more one of those topics that's debated a lot, like on LinkedIn, you see it in the media, in the news, but the cases are actually more rare?
I think the problem is we don't know, actually. We don't know whether we've been a deepfake incident, because we are not, as an industry as a whole.
Yeah.
We are. I think that is actually the real problem.
How about a Kompasbank? Is that like something you spend a lot of time on in debating in meetings or seeing cases, or?
Mainly internally with regards to, again, social engineering, or the stories you've heard about having a business meeting where you thought you were talking to the CEO, but you weren't. But with regards to like onboarding customers, we haven't discovered, I should say, yet anyway. But then again, that's also something about our whole onboarding process is not, it's not there yet where that makes sense to do, but it's coming up. And the question is whether we at some point should go back to physical meetings or something like that, because when it's so easy to make deep fakes, then what can we actually trust besides like pinching each other? Knowing that we're actually present.
Yeah, and I spoke to head of AML, head of compliance at a wealth manager in the UK, and obviously they are not like a high volume bank. They don't have endless clients, but they had just made the choice of like, you know what, we're gonna do all of our onboardings in person. So that's just our choice now. Yeah. And of course they have a much smaller customer group, but it's interesting to see that no, we're not looking for technology to make that more efficient. We're just gonna make them come to our office and show up. Yeah. But also on this onboarding part, I've seen all these deepfake stories online, and just one reflection again from Norway is that no, it's not so much about the deepfakes, it's about exploiting the vulnerabilities in our corporate registry, for instance. Yeah, you can just use that to start businesses. You bribe people to take on the director roles and CEO roles. You exploit bank ideas. So it's again back to the trust vulnerabilities in our system. and the human engineering, like forcing someone to take on roles or using their ID. So it's quite interesting to see the gap between what's possible with AI and also just what you see on the front lines, right? But Cecilia, what are some of the like unique threats and risks that you see concerning financial crime around SMEs and onboarding of SMEs at Kompasbank?
Well, you can say that small and medium-sized enterprises are like at the sweet spot. They have enough transactions to be interesting and not enough internal controls to actually like catch these anomalies fast enough if something looks off. And also the whole technology that SMEs are fast on taking on new technologies and stuff like that, but every technology is like a attack surface, like every app on their phone, every new cool vendor that they onboard is a threat for criminals to attack.
Yeah, I also saw, it was a story again from like a bank in Norway, and they went out in the media and said like, you know what, 4 out of 10 of the SMEs that we onboard somehow is related to like fraud or risk somehow. Because, you know, it's all about getting the bank account, and then you can start doing a lot of exploitations around the social welfare systems, and, you know, starting an enterprise, having employees doing a lot of salary theft, reporting in fake numbers to the authorities, and then doing fraud around that. So it's actually quite a shocking number. But again, they couldn't say for sure. It was just, this is what we think. So it's hard to really know how big it is.
And also come back to the trust thing, that because you're like in the company register and you can provide like the transcript from Virkelig, for instance, that you trust it because that's, well, we're getting there where we're gonna distrust more and more, but that this looks like a real document, and also like faking passports, driver's license, that they look legit, but how are we actually gonna, like, we need more tools to figure out whether this is actually legit or not.
Yeah, because the case you're talking about the UK company who changed their onboarding system, that's a really sad story.
Yeah, it is.
Really, and that should not be the case. They should instead, I mean, I totally understand, but they should instead sort of team up on how to get their own systems better. Because for the customer and for the way we organize our society, to sort of give in on that and make people show up physically, that should not be the case. They should have, I mean, it would be much better if they, I don't know, had better AI, better systems, whatever, to avoid that.
Yeah, and you talked about that in your previous talk as well, like the customer experience. How to kind of reconcile a great customer experience with managing the risk as well. And for the sake of risk, not just for the sake of fulfilling the requirements. But it will be interesting to see how threading these 3 things together in the future will actually be great customer experience, regulatory compliance, and then actually handling the risks. Have you guys seen any change in the type of criminal profile or the last, the last decade, in a sense? We had a guest on a little while back from EY, and he said that they had started thinking about this new criminal profile as the bored teenager in a room, because they're so good at adopting technology. You sit online, you get onto forums, and you just see, oh, could I do this? Maybe I should just, because I'm sitting here on my computer and I'm bored, should I try this? I don't know if you've seen any of this shift in trend.
I think, yes, I think it's very, like, the bored teenager is a thing. And you also, there was a recent case in Denmark where a young teenager was telling about how they bought fake purses and sold them off because they found on a Reddit forum or something that this was a way you could earn money fast, and knew that it was illegal to sell fake goods, but worth the risk. So I think there is a lot of this is very basic, but then turn technology on, and then you have it as well, also helping criminals take money through their accounts and stuff like that. It's easy money, and I don't think that they understand what a criminal record actually means for their future. And I think that, and that also means that there are more more people on the field, you could say, like criminals. There are the big criminals, the real criminals, and then there are all these having fun and just trying out whether you could hack this place or if I send out this prompt, what can happen then and stuff like that. And then that again, bigger attack surface, more people shooting.
And have you seen any shift in like criminal profiles?
Nice. Actually, to the same extent that you say with the 14, but apart from that, I think actually, no, not really, but I think the public opinion on what a criminal looks like. We had this documentary in Denmark called Black Swan, which was...
it became huge in Norway as well.
But if you work with AML, you're not surprised. All my family, all my friends are like, oh my God, this is ordinary people, they're wearing a tie and they're criminals. Yeah. Guess what? So I think that for the public as a whole, perhaps the idea of what a criminal looks like has changed, but not if you've been, not really. I mean, why should you not be wearing a tie and be a clever criminal? So.
Yeah, and that is also, I mean, one dystopian future to think about is like, okay, all this promise, AI will come in and, replace jobs. We will have so much more time. Will it be then more people having more time to just think about new or falling into this kind of criminal hobby profile almost and using technology, whereas all the compliance officers are just sitting there like, oh my God.
People's moral sense will stay the same.
Yeah, maybe that is also actually something for AMLR and AMLA to start like having some kind of track around the moral, like building up people's moral again in society.
Yeah, and when there are more bad guys, there are also like white hackers. I think there's also people that want to use technology for good stuff as well, and just hope that it's gonna balance out.
Do you guys have any like specific examples from your, frontline work around a case where someone used technology to try to defraud or something that you were able to stop or detect in a sense?
No, not beside the normal transaction monitoring and the rules set up there and triggers and what we do already.
Yeah, and also I guess it's the unknown unknowns. You don't know those until it kind of...
Partly that and partly perhaps we're talking a lot about it, but it hasn't really come to life yet, hopefully. So but hopefully with the good guys can make sure that we have the right systems before that actually happens.
There is one technology story that has come up in Denmark, which is around like encrypted messages. And it was last year. Peter Humlegård, Denmark's justice minister, spoke about like crime as a service and went out and warned about that. Has that story gained any more, any more public, been on the public's mind? Have you guys been part of it? Like, what's your thought around this?
Well, I'm a privacy first person, so that's like my angle, and I believe that encryption protects journalists, whistleblowers, dissidents, and ordinary people who do not want anyone to look through their mail. I understand what he was trying to do, but in my opinion, it's also, you can tackle this another way. It's about the whole law enforcement, that if you give the right tools with the right audit logs, Palantir and all, you can do this. Like France with the, Encro chat, the telephone that they wrapped up. It's possible without having backdoors into encryption, because backdoors into encryption, maybe it's only the governments, but it's still a backdoor for the teenager who hobby criminals or governments who all of a sudden want to use it for something else. And I think that's, don't go there.
No, I totally agree. Yeah.
All right. We have talked a lot about some of the threats, but let's talk about the Terminator movie from 1991, where technology was reprogrammed to be our only savior. So what is it that you guys see as the biggest like AML compliance areas in need of like a technology glow up, to say it that way?
Well, I think there's a lot to do on AML. All the manual processes that a lot of us have, they need to die. And they need to die anyhow, because whether or not they're criminals or not, because you cannot, it's inefficient, it's the operational risks are too high, it's too costly. So, I mean, in that sense,
Yeah.
Give us some more AI. And
Yeah.
For Kompasbank, what is like, if you could wave a magic wand today and like, okay, this area needs to glow up and it would change overnight, which one would you pick?
I don't know, all of the above, I would say, because I totally agree that it's the whole automation part, that we have so many processes that, and we've been working on this always. I think automation has been a word for the last, I don't know, 30, 40 years in the financial sector, so it's not new, but AI just makes it easier, or potentially easier, depending on how you use it. And but I think there is a lot of low-hanging fruit, to use that expression, and also to analyze data and to help the humans with the expert knowledge, but give them the best starting point for making their jobs and their tasks, and making sure that they see like the big picture, because you can always be swamped with data. Think about your presentation earlier, that we have a lot of data, but a lot of it is not used in an efficient way, and AI can really be the superpower in that sense.
Yeah, you also spoke about it in your talk earlier, like helping humans to make the assessment, like, does this make sense? This business over here, these are their clients, this is where they're located, like putting all of this together, and the more, not just as a checkbox, do I have the industry code, do I have all the data points, but like, does it make sense? Do you see like, how are we going to get there so we can get over to this more as human judgment way?
I mean, we are going to get there, but the problem is, I think in many institutions, that the core data we have today is perhaps not sufficiently, or the sort of the analysis made on that data is not the correct one. So you might end up sort of accepting something that would actually not be a good customer, because you don't understand what is actually going on. So how we actually going to use AI to help us do that, I'm not quite sure, but that would be very helpful.
Cecilia, Kompasbank, you guys built your compliance infrastructure digitally from day one, and there are a lot of old financial institutions that need maybe to go in a retrofit mode and be, okay, we've been around for forever. How do we overlay technology on what's already there? What were some of the advantages of starting clean, and some of the things that people might not think about are disadvantages and challenges too?
Well, the advantage is, like you say, no legacy. Like you can, we sometimes joke about the big banks being like the super tanker, and we are like the fast boat. But then again, the disadvantage is actually legacy as well. If you see legacy as historical data, because like when starting up and getting the first customer, you have nothing. You have like your theories and your lab analyses, but it takes like a critical number of customers before you can actually do some, also like just training a model and stuff like that, to actually know what kind of customers is actually interested in having an account at Kompasbank, and how do we use this and make our processes better and better customer experience and stuff like that. So it's like, it's a long build-up phase. And also legacy builds up fast.
And this was my follow-up question, like how fast does this little boat turn into a big ship? Because it can quickly do that, right?
It can quickly do that, yeah. And I think it was...
Do you have any examples of like a choice you guys made? You thought it was, okay, this is the modern way, and then quite shortly after a wave hit, and you're like, oh, this was not the right choice at all.
Well, yes, AI was the wave, and our data bank, or the data lake, was the super tanker. We've had to, like you said, that we have a lot of data, but we don't know what kind of data we actually have. So, and AI has been a good opportunity to do over, to actually be strict on, this is the data point and this is what this data point actually do, like have the description of the data so that an AI can actually understand what is this data point in order to do more. And to understand how to put them together and connect the dots and everything. So so that's an example of legacy building up and starting over. So yeah, and also I had a tech saying that one of my systems was a legacy system. And I'm like, we're 5 years old. How is that even possible? And he was like, well, it's legacy if no one is like maintaining it. And like, it's not maintained, but not as much as it was in the beginning. And I was like, oh, damn, you're right. Like, as soon as you have a system that's not like a priority, then it becomes legacy the next day. And that, yeah. So legacy builds up fast.
Did you guys experience when you launched as well, or in the beginning? Because I mean, one saying is also that, you know, the criminals just flock to the kind of the newest product out there because oh, they must have some vulnerabilities as well. Maybe they haven't had the time to implement the procedures and all of that. Did you kind of experience that you were a bit under attack by criminals in a sense? Because some people say that, but was it the reality?
Not when we started. But we had an example of a new product recently where like we didn't do any marketing or anything, but like the first week we had the first dodgy customers and be all like,
So they're in the chat like, okay, new product, let's try to get on.
Yeah, or again, just shooting and like scraping what is out there and then go there and give it a try. So yes.
So I mean, AI, we hear a lot about it, a lot of plans to get there, but can you give us like a specific example of how you've kind of used the latest technology or got it into a process? Like, where did you start? Did you start super small? How long did it take? What was the actual hassles of getting it into production, if you were able to get there? Because a lot of people run POCs and trials, but it's quite hard to get into like a live production environments.
And you think about like AI into
for
production.
Instance?
Well, we've implemented in our KYC onboarding actually that an AI is like doing what we talked about, like trying to see the big picture and doing the research first, and also like some of the hits that you get on screenings or possible hits and peps that the AI can actually say that, okay, this is nonsense. Like when we see it as a person, we're like, yes, of course, that's because that you misspelled something here, or it's a middle name that's off. And of course you can make better rules, so these are not flagged at the first. But AI helps to do that. The human is only like, okay, that makes sense. I can see that it's right, moving on. So that's helpful. And that's the whole large language model is perfect for analyzing texts and data in this sense.
And from you're around now being an AML expert, what do you kind of advise people on okay, where to start? Do you think small, start with like one little use case, or is it more, okay, let's go in and you know, let's replace the whole data infrastructure with an AI native solution?
Definitely start small to make sure you understand it and you understand what impact it has on your other systems, because otherwise you end up not having any clue on what is going on, and that's going to be costly to sort of rewind that. So start small by all means, really. But do start. Let me do start, because otherwise it's not going to be efficient. It's not going to be. The customers probably will expect you to use it, but yeah. So do start.
And also, as a working in compliance, do you guys experience any of the tension between maybe a CEO who wants us, or who wants to be, oh, let's have proof points that we have gotten using AI so they can report to shareholders and the board, versus you sit there like, but we also need to be compliant, and it's not certain that AI will immediately bring any efficiency gain or even cost savings at all. I was at a talk with the COO at the Rabobank, and he said like, no, we have adopted a lot of AI. It hasn't made our costs go down at all. And we have this narrative of like, AI in compliance, we will reduce our expenses, but it might not actually be true. So how do you navigate this possible tension between let's use AI and report it and actually be compliant and reduce overhead and costs?
It might not reduce costs, but it might actually give you much better quality. So it should not only be the cost side of the story to focus on. I think it should actually make you much more the work much more qualified if it's done right, of course. But yeah.
Yeah, and with regards to done right, then if the CEO wants it, then he might want to risk accept that it's not as compliant as she wanted it to be to begin with, and then get better as you move on. But I think that AI was a new beast a few years back, and I think that a lot of people have learned more by trying than by setting up the right guardrails first and trying to like invent the perfect setup for the AI. And again, starting small and not like don't let an agent do your payments day one, but start, like you say, like try it out, do it.
So it's kind of like two big beasts at one emerging for compliance professionals. It's AMLR and AI at the same time, in a sense. When you go out and talk to people, how do you advise on these two things, or how to overlay it, or make it take the same direction?
It's a sort of parallel process, because you cannot do the AI without having sufficiently the understanding of your risk. But once you understand your risk on the AML, and it's a huge thing in every bank, you cannot actually be efficient without using modern technology. I think you could, of course, back then, but now when it's here, you need to have a parallel.
But do you experience any, I don't know, worry from the market that, okay, how are we going to do these two things?
And how are we going to make sure that it actually works, and not just not pretending it works? And I think the probably would be a great idea to take whatever AI solution you are planning on, bring it to the FSA and say, let's drink coffee and we'd like to talk with you about what we're doing before we do it.
Do you think they're open to that here in Denmark?
Yeah.
So what's also, it would be interesting to cover the regulatory or the regulator's perspective too. Do you think they are as open to adopting AI as some banks? Like, are they at the forefront? Where do they currently sit in this landscape?
I heard them talk about that they actually thought that some of the big banks were too cautious, actually, and that surprised me a bit. But I think that the FSA is embracing AI as much as possible anyway, and I think they are going to use it as well. And again, it's the whole question of how you use it, that the whole data analysis and things like that makes super sense. And then be aware of when there has to be a human in the loop and the whole human judgment thing. That I hope FSA keeps that.
Yeah, and they have this fintech lab with an inspiration from the UK similar. I forgot what it's called in the UK, but they have a fintech lab where you can actually come in with your project, and they would sit and observe, and you could have a sort of collab on whatever new technology or new system you'd like to bring into life. And I think they take in applications 2 or 3 times a year. So if you have an AML or AI project, I would definitely go for that.
So a clear advice to everyone in Denmark is to reach out and...
Now the FSA is going to say, why did you take me? They're not taking me phone. No, they will.
And they will like meet you a bit more with open arms than just the kind of...
Yeah, I think they would. I think that would be the sort of atmosphere in the FSA. They know they need to understand too, and it's here. They need to sort of find out how AI can be used, and they need the industry to help them.
So it's like a good timing actually to come with an AI project and...
I think it would be.
Yeah, agreed.
So of course we can paint the picture of the beautiful future where you have AI who files SAR reports and reviews it, like files it. You have AI agents that review every case and escalate it to the humans, and the humans it's only like the human judgment that remains, none of that kind of manual work. And and also maybe a future where there's no human in the loop, you just have agents going around doing all the work. Do you think that we will get there? And also, quoting Jurassic Park, just because we can, should we? Is it a good idea to go all the way?
Well, there's the AI Act that will probably not be happy with no human in the loop, because filing a SAR is a judgment call with consequences for customers. And I would assume that AI Acts see that as a high-risk solution and would require a human in the loop. And like I said before, let AI do the groundwork, and then let the human do the judgment. And the thing is that the better the AI get, the more we trust it, and that's also both good and bad, because then the human judgment becomes more and more vague because computer says no. And I think that's something that we should be aware of and have a good and control environment to make sample checks of what's actually coming out of this AI model, and understand when it's biased and when it's hallucinating and when it's gone rogue. And we need to have some checks and balances.
Do you think we will get to a future where the AML or compliance department you've hired basically a set of AI agents, and then it's running autonomously, and maybe, I don't know, there's one human at the top controlling it all? Or where do you think we're going?
No, I don't think so. I think it's still, I think we'll still have a lot of humans doing the judgment and have the interaction with the colleagues in the other departments, because the compliance is not an isolated part of the bank. It is in the bank, and have interactions with credit and whatnot, whatever. So it could not be run by technology.
But I still think that the further you automate first line controls and stuff like that, then the work for the AI chief compliance officer would be easier, and easier to automate as well, because then you don't need as much human interaction, because you actually have the controls and you have the model descriptions and stuff like that. That makes it easier to actually do your compliance work. But then again, there's the whole accountability part as well, that we need to know who's actually making the calls here, and being able to explain the control and the judgment made by the AI chief compliance officer, for instance.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I feel this year has been quite a ride. I remember, of course, end of last year, we're a software company, so we build a lot of software, and the end of last year, Anthropic launched their Claude Code, and suddenly we're now in a situation where almost all of the software that we deliver is made by Claude, and we have the software engineer's job has just drastically changed, right? They sat and were like craftsmen before, writing the code like line by line. No, I'm exaggerating, but that was the work. And now in half a year, all of their work has been transformed. And now they sit and have maybe several sessions in parallel and give feedback and can quality control.
Check,
And in the beginning of the year, it was like, oh, software development as a job is just going away. And it was a lot of fear around it. And people, software engineers, were more fearful of their job. And it was this kind of bleak narrative going around on LinkedIn, etc. But now that everyone kind of settles in a little bit, it's that's not the case at all, right? The fact is that you get to do much more. The work has, of course, gone from maybe down here to a bit more higher up, but it's still so complex that it's nowhere what the prediction was that anyone can code. And yeah, we have people at Strise now who are contributing. Some people on our customer success team, they can fix bugs and small things for the clients like right away, but doing those like big system architecture, making it all work really flawlessly, it's still for the software engineers. And there's more job left, actually. There's even more job to be done, because you can suddenly compress everything we thought we were going to do in a year. You could do that in like 5 months, and then it frees up times for more. So I've also seen this change now firsthand, and thinking back to compliance and AML teams, that's going to be the change, right? And also, of course, there are some people who might not like going from being the craftsmen writing all the code to taking a step up and doing higher level work. And that's true for every job, not just software or AML, but I see that as like the clear kind of future. And also just for myself, I can't even think going back to like December 2025 in terms of my job. I had quite a big delivery in terms of slides. We had a meeting. I needed to build like a big slide package. And then I got Claude to help me doing all of it. But again, what's interesting is that none of the slides where I didn't have like good structured data or the good data foundations to build them on or generate them from, wasn't good.
No.
It was really bad. And then I had to resort back to, making some tables, like of course not in the slide program, but like the underlying program. And that turned out really well. But I did do kind of like a manual work underneath, but it was just very interesting to see. And how much more fun it was as well. It was quite interesting. So I see that as the future. Sorry for ranting. This is a topic that I'm super passionate about. But back to banks and financial institutions. So of course we have like the big tier ones with massive budgets, massive people. Then you have smaller institutions that might not have the same resources. And I've seen also some of the tier ones can invest heavily in new technology, bringing like the best IT consultants in, building up stuff from scratch. Do you think we will see some of a tiered system almost? Those who can have the budgets and afford expensive AI solutions and those who don't?
Well, I think that's already the case. Even without AI, it's always been like the tier one. They're way ahead of the rest, and I think that's perfectly fine. It's gonna dribble down to the smaller institutions. And
then again, the requirements are the same, so it's more a matter of how you implement it, and if you don't, then you're gonna get the orders from the FSA or the consequences.
I think we're nearing the end. I see there's only like a minute left, but I think just to kind of close it off, I think the job is quite exciting ahead if you work in compliance and AML. It's like really exciting tasks, and now we have new tools to do them in a new way. So I see like an endless amount of opportunity and really exciting work for people ahead. So I'm truly excited about the next few years in AML compliance. But before we move on to our quickfire closer, or before we end this episode, I am going to dish out some quick-fire questions for you, and then we're done. So, the biggest technology threat in FinCrime today is
AI.
AI, yeah.
If you could change one thing about how Danish banks approach compliance technology, what would it be?
I would say like not trying to fix something with a new tech solution. Like tech just amplifies the process. If it's broken, the tech just speeds up going into the ditch. So understand the problem first and try to solve it within, and then you can automate or find a good solution for it.
Yeah, but I totally agree. And that's why we still need humans.
Exactly.
Is the regulator of the future more automated or more human?
More use.
Yeah, and then like I said before, that automated with regards to data and research and analysis, but still human in the judgment layer.
And finally, will we harness technology for good, or will it always be used against us first?
It will always be used against us first.
Yeah, agreed. Criminals are creative.
All right, that brings this spin of the laundry to an end. Louise and Cecilia, thank you so much for joining me. Give them a round of applause. Where, if people want to connect with you later and continue the conversation, where can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think that's easiest.
And thanks to everyone who was listening, and thanks to the audience. If you've enjoyed this episode, we have more than 160 episodes, and follow The Laundry on your podcast platform of choice. The Laundry is proudly produced by Strise. We're building software and AI agents for financial crime professionals. Visit strise.ai for more information. See you next time.